For more, let's bring in our high-powered political panel. First, Skyping in from New York City, the former Lieutenant Governor of the Empire State, Betsy McCaughey, and joining us from the aforementioned California, son of President Ronald Reagan, political commentator Michael Reagan. Michael, of course, the author of the great book, Lessons My Father Taught Me, The Strength, Integrity, and Faith of Ronald Reagan. As always, you can find and follow Michael on Twitter, his handle @ReaganWorld. Michael, you've written a new column that I want to get to, but first, we just heard John Zogby countering Mr. Trump's claims that the polling could be rigged. Betsy, who's writing this?
I'm not aware of any polling being rigged. I think what Donald Trump is most concerned about is the media's determination to really hammer him unfairly about his treatment of women. I mean, I take sexual assault very seriously. All women do, and I especially do with 3 daughters and 2 granddaughters. But on some of the more serious accusations, it's definitely a he said, she said thing. There's no witnesses, no facts, and yet the media have run with it, the cable networks particularly. It's covered every night as if there's no doubt these accusations are true, when in many cases there's a lot of doubt they're true. In some cases, there's real evidence they're untrue. So I think that that's what he's mostly reacting to. We should move beyond these accusations because everyone deserves a fair trial, and none of that's going to happen before Election Day. And we should move on to the concrete issues like immigration and jobs, and really give voters what they want, information.
True. And, you know, I remember my father being called a warmonger. He was going to turn Iran into a parking lot, a glass factory. But you'll never find an audio tape or an op-ed piece of my father denying that he would ever do that. He let the story die, keep it with the liberals, and he went out and talked about the issues he wanted to talk about to make America truly great again. And that's where Donald Trump has been absolutely wrong in this whole operation having to do with these women. Instead of just letting it lay and going on with the talking about the issues he needs to be talking about, he keeps the issues going by saying the things that he in fact is saying about the women and so on. It keeps the media keeping this story alive, and we all know above everything else in the media, sex sells.
Well, there are other issues that are concerning. I can't dispute that, Michael, but I got to tell you, one of the big issues that really catapulted Trump to the top, illegal immigration, and now courtesy of WikiLeaks, we see Mrs. Clinton's speech to Goldman Sachs in 2013, where she said those who don't support immigration, and of course, she's blurred it, Betsy, but she says those who don't support, quote, immigration are fundamentally un-American. Doesn't she really mean if you don't support illegal immigration, you're fundamentally un-American?
Well, and here's the real issue, that American workers are being displaced by newcomers to this country at a terrible pace. I just looked at the numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and over the last 12 months, jobs held by American-born workers inched up only 1%. Jobs held by foreigners coming into the country are up 5%. So you can see that they're getting the job opportunities. Americans are being thrown out of their jobs, and in some cases actually being required to train their lower wage foreign replacements.
Betsy, you should be on the campaign trail and write that speech for Donald Trump. Instead of covering it like it should be covered, instead of giving a speech on illegal immigration and the numbers you just were talking about, he says something about illegal immigration for about a second and a half, and he goes on about something else. He doesn't give a consistent message on one issue. He has a million issues he's talking about. He needs to be talking about one issue and get that issue right.
Well, let me talk about one issue, and it has to do, Michael, with your criticism of Donald Trump. You have been very candid with some things that you don't like about Mr. Trump, but you pinned an interesting article that appears on our parent website, Newsmax.com, entitled Imperfect Trump, Still the Better Choice. In it, you're right, Trump isn't perfect as a human being or a Republican and never will be, but I'm willing to be embarrassed by him for 4 years if that's what it takes to stop Hillary. Tell us, with the minute that remains, what led to what some might call a change of heart.
Well, that wasn't really a change of heart. I talk about in that article, talking to my son Cameron, who has a little 9-month-old baby girl, and he was in tears the other night because he's concerned about what kind of world his daughter, my granddaughter, Marilyn Page, is going to grow up in. And we really talked about that. And so the op-ed piece, really is an op-ed piece saying we have a choice between embarrassment and evil. And so I'm not going to choose evil over embarrassment. I'll choose embarrassment over evil at this point in time. And I'm saddened that Trump is running the campaign that, in fact, he is running.
Well, there is room for improvement, and certainly both of you had areas where Mr. Trump will have a chance to show that improvement in the third debate coming up in Las Vegas. For now, Betsy McCaughey from New York, Michael Reagan from Southern California, thanks very much for your time.